Hey, welcome to Filler. I am Joe.
And I am Steve.
And we have today a very special guest, Max Narotsky of Ultra Deluxe.
Woo!
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Max. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah.
So today we are going to be hearing about what Max's filler is, which we're not going to spoil. She can introduce them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Floria Wars.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited to talk about that a lot.
Yeah, so as a quick introduction, Max, what are your pronouns?
She, they.
She, they. Okay. And Joe, what are yours?
Mine are he, they.
And mine are he, him, but I have toyed with the idea of he, they for a while. And a while ago, Joe and I had an off-mic discussion about this that we kind of wished we recorded. And so, Max, a big part of your music in Ultra Deluxe and your online identity has been about, like, gender nonconforming, genderqueer stuff. So we were interested if you'd like to discuss this, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's definitely like a big part of who I am. You know, like, so I'm assigned male at birth. I am 6 foot, 6'0", 270 pounds. Like, I'm a very large person. I have a beard. I exist in the world as like a masculine looking person, but I feel more feminine, right? Just in general. Like, I was born male, I used he, him and lived my life as a man until I was like 23. And then I was like, this hasn't really resonated with me. I've known since I was like a teenager that I was bisexual. And so then I went by just exclusively they, them from 23 to very recently, I'm 31 now, until about last year. And I had always existed outside the binary. And I am like a feminine person. Like, I like to wear flowy clothes. I feel feminine, but I'm not a woman, but I'm not a woman. Like, I have transitioned from a man to a feminine human being, right? And so that's why it's she and they. Like, I am a woman, but I'm not a woman. Like, I'm also not a man. Like, well, I'm definitely not a man, but you know what I mean? Like, I have become more feminine than I was when my parents made me, but to me, that's just who I am. Like, I like to be that way. And I like to like exist in that way because it kind of is confusing to me. And it can, I think progressive, minded people in New York City get it. But like, if people are confused by that on the internet, like, good. Like, it's confusing. Like, that's the point. I'm confused. We're all confused, but it also doesn't really matter. Like, I'm just trying to rock out. And so I think that's part of why I'm just owning it now, is like, I've been confused a lot in my life. So like, let's just do it.
And that's so cool because, like, if someone walked in right now, they'd be like, wow, you have the nicest beard out of the three of us here. And you go by she, they, and it's cool. Like, and it is. It's like, it kind of brings some like punkness back to queerness, I think. It has an interesting like challenging of like what we expect as things get more accepted in some ways for queer people. Now, what you said really resonated with me about the she, they thing, because I've always felt like I've had no problem with he, him for myself. I've always felt male. But as I've gotten older, I keep waiting to feel like a man. And I thought it was just like arrested development for a long time. I thought I was just feeling too young to call myself a man. Like, I was stuck immature and not progressing or being what I thought like a man should be. But then I get older and realize, well, it should have happened by now. It should have felt natural by now. But I also have no problem with he, him pronouns. So do I start using they, or would that make me feel kind of self-conscious? Maybe like I'm attention seeking or trying to like take up space in an area that's not really for me, like, look at the, straight white cis guy with the, identity crisis as he turns 30. But then I talked to Joe about it and I said, like, I'm interested in going by he, they, but like would have no problem being called he. I see you're he, they. What was your thinking behind it?
Kind of a cross between both of your reasonings and your thinkings. Max, I really like the way that you put it, that you said you're not a man, not a woman, not a woman, but that you were assigned male at birth and then you became a feminine human being. It makes me think a lot about the language we use when talking about people with disabilities, not to say that there are disabilities in that situation, but rather we use person first language. And so by saying feminine human being, we're bringing humanity back to it instead of gender or sex or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. So that you put that very eloquently, and I really appreciate that, because with that and with what Steve is talking about right now is kind of where I fell. I had this idea where for a little bit I had, I guess, like confusion in the way that you expressed it, where I was like, I don't totally feel like a man. And so my first line of thinking, this is maybe, I was in my later 20s. I was thinking, am I bisexual? And then I think I saw someone with a beard, and I was like walking my dog, and I was like, I do not want to feel that on my face. I don't want that sensation to like to kiss someone that has a beard. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm bisexual. And then that was not something that appealed to me. And so that was my first thought. And then I thought about it, reflected more, and I never wanted to date any men. Wasn't for me, or like I didn't feel like it was for me. So then one day I was thinking and like questioning, okay, it's not the sexuality, but rather how I present. While I don't think I'll go towards feminine clothing or traditionally feminine clothing, I definitely do not feel like I relate to anything that's traditionally masculine. And so I'm not really crazy into sports, even though like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll go to a Mets game and have a good time. Or like, I really like hockey, but I don't feel that like, that men, quote unquote, feel, you know? That was my first notion. And then I just started going further with it, that I actually get along a lot better with women traditionally than I do with men, just because I feel like I can relate to them better. Again, I don't feel like a woman, but I don't feel like a man. And kind of similar to what you're saying, Steve. And so that's when I started saying like, oh, maybe I'm somewhere in between or something different or something else. And so that's where they felt comfortable, even though you can call me he and I won't be offended. And I'll feel there's still some resonance there, but it's just, I'm not only he.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I get that. I do strongly resonate with the sports thing. I think we're all AMAB here. And I think that a lot of AMAB folks are like, I don't like sports. And I was potentially bisexual. Like, that's my first thing that I'm like, maybe I'm, somewhere between the binary. And that is just like, it's cool to feel comfortable. I don't know. There is that imposter syndrome thing that both of you talked about. And I frequently get that, especially because I, for all intents and purposes, look like a man 100% of the time, unless I'm wearing clothes, I still, regardless of what clothes I'm wearing, I'll look like a man. And that's like, I'm just doing it on purpose. Like, I fucking have wanted a beard since I was like 15 or 14 because I like couldn't grow one. I'm like, I want a beard. But like people with beards wear makeup. People with beards have dresses. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. So, I mean, it matters, but like, let's make it not matter as much.
Yeah. Which I think speaks to what you were saying, Steve, about this like idea of punk or kind of like pushing back against these stereotypes and pushing against boundaries and just categorization that's kind of ultimately unnecessary.
And to touch on the imposter syndrome thing too, I didn't want running away from manhood to be a sign of like trying to avoid the responsibility to be a better man, because there's so much wrong with men and everything that they run, that I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to try to absolve myself of that by saying, well, I'm not one. It's like, no, I recognize the issues and want to be better. I'm curious if you want to get into it, what your bisexual awakening was like.
Oh, yeah. I was like, maybe like 12. Well, I don't know. I just like, I'm a socialist, like, but I grew up with, my parents are liberals. I'm more further left than my parents, but I've always been from like a liberal leaning family. My mom's brother, my uncle, is gay. And so like, that was like, from the moment I was a young child, gay is okay. Like that's chill. Like you can do that. And so then I was kind of free to like explore as a teenager. And I was just like, and I mean, I always thought, people like, I don't know, if you're hot, you're hot. Like it doesn't matter like what you look like a hot person is hot. So I was just able to, explore that. And I think I lucked out, being a, I don't know. I mean, Gen Z, I think has some things are easier, more accepting, but I was just surrounded by a lot of people in the music scene where it was okay to do that. And but as a kid, I just was like, I think anybody can be cute. And so I was able to like, just realize that at a young age. Although there was one story, I was in the closet in high school and stuff like that, but I am from New Jersey. And so I would go into the city often for like concerts and stuff. And once I was like 17, 18, my parents let me take the train by myself. And so I was like walking to Penn Station to go back, take the train to New Jersey. And I see these two guys, like two gay men in a relationship, just like making out. And this is like 2009 or something. And so like, obviously like people make out all the time. Gay people make out all the time. But like, you have to understand, I'm like impressionable in the closet bisexual, seeing two men not being fucked with, being able to like make out in public. That was like really like seeing them not get fucked with. And like, also it's New York City. Nobody gave a shit. Like everybody's like going to work or whatever. It's near Penn Station, but nobody like stopped. Like in my hometown, which is just suburban New Jersey, like, you know, people probably would have been not cool with that. So that was probably that moment where I was like, okay, this is fine for me to do, like, people are not going to mess with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that moment struck out to me. I was like 16 or 17.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That sounds empowering.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, I don't think those guys just wanted to make out with each other. I mean, I'm sure they were like dating and loved each other, but like at that moment, they just wanted to kiss each other. They didn't care what that was 2009 or what year it was. And like, that was really important for me to see that was okay for them to do.
Yeah.
I also came from a small conservative town. I was lucky that my parents were more on the left, and I've gone even further to the left of them too. But I got called a lot of homophobic slurs for someone that wasn't gay, and like had a moment around 15. I haven't told this story yet. I'm glad I have a reason to now. So I was like 15 years old, and I was like lying in bed thinking about it a lot, you know, as you do, teenager, trying to find yourself. And I was like, you know, why do all these people like call me gay and they have slur all the time? And I was giving like way too much credit to bullies who were just like saying something in passing because they had narrow minds, you know? But I was like, do they see something that I don't? And it was like, so I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I know I like women, but like, could I like men too? And of course, this was before I knew anything about like anything beyond the gender binary. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, I think at the time the show Victorious was big on Nickelodeon. I was thinking of like that whole cast is hot. I was like, okay, I think I might be bi. And then I start trying to imagine myself like making out with Avanjogia. And then I kind of hit a wall and was like, actually, no, I don't think that's for me, but at least now I know. And then it never bothered me anymore when people would like call me that. And then I started making gay friends, and I was like, oh, y'all are so much cooler anyway. Like, it's fine. Like, you know? Yeah. Glad we had a avenue to talk about that. Yeah. This is interesting.
No, it's fun. Welcome to the Ultra Deluxe episode.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is a good segue.
This is the if you're gay, there you go. Welcome. If you're not gay, that's cool too. That's chill. Everything's chill.
Hell yeah.
Just not a fascist.
Not everything. No, not everything. The cool shit is cool. The bad shit, get out of town.
So, Max, I'm gonna throw the ball in your court and see what you feel like talking about first between Tripper, your filler, but Tripper by, is it Efterklang?
Efterklang,
yeah. Or would you like to go into Floria Wars first?
We'll start with Floria Wars.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
So Floria Wars was your most recent record, right?
Yeah.
On Lonely Ghost Records?
Yeah, Lonely Ghost Records.
Awesome.
Our first album with them.
That's awesome. I've been talking with John.
John is so awesome.
Them,
yeah.
And they seem like a great person.
Oh, yeah. They're like, getting to meet them in real life, and, you know, just politically, he and I are very aligned. Our music is also very similar. Super Destroyer makes this electronic, emo, screamo, experimental stuff that I had, I knew about Lonely Ghost and Super Destroyer maybe a year or two before we even like asked to work together, just from like we make weird music, we've got good politics, like we should be talking. And so it's like a perfect fit. The label, with us.
I remember when your album got announced that it was on Lonely Ghost, it was one of those moments in DIY, social media, emo scene, whatnot, where I was like, oh, that one tracks. Yeah. Like this all makes sense. It's like seeing the stars align in a very positive way. So Floria Wars is your fourth album, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you have like a huge, big sci-fi epic that's going on.
Yeah. There's like a whole saga backstory thing.
Can you give us some context for what's going on in the story up until now so that we can get into Floria Wars?
Yeah. So the Floria Wars is the fourth LP in a saga that's ongoing. Ultra Deluxe has 4 LPs and then like a split and another EP. No, we've got like 3 EPs and 1 split. So the first EP came out in 2017. That's not related to any of the saga. The first split came out in like 2018. And then in like 2018 or 2019, I was like, I only want to make sci-fi story stuff. So yeah, it's kind of basically Star Wars, but more communist and, a lot more themes of like, gender exploration, class. There's a lot of more historical influences, but yeah, so speculative fiction about like what happens if we don't stop capitalism. So it's set in the year 2700. There's a fascist capitalist, like kind of like if NATO and the UN got like even more evil and like took over other planets. So they take over countries in Earth and then they run out of resources. So then they go to planets, and planets kind of like how Elon Musk wants to go to Mars because the Earth gets really inhospitable or whatever. And they reach a planet, Zevium, and they're not really, they're putting up a fight. Zevium is putting up a fight, right? And so it is like this large like build up and all this lore, but it's really focused on maybe like a 30-year span between Earth's billionaires fighting Zevium. And Zevium is this planet, kind of like, again, Star Wars, Hoth, icy planet, cool advanced technology. And then obviously there's anti-imperialists on Earth, communists, leftists, what have you, and they're allying to help Zevium. And so the whole story is kind of centered around these three different groups or factions working again, and so this is the fourth album, The Flory Wars. It's, we're getting into the action of this thing. And then there's more backstory. I can go really in depth with like the other three albums.
Yeah, sure. So because I was looking at the lyrics for the Floria Wars, so I know that there are characters that you and the other musicians that you work with sing as.
Yeah.
So who are the characters that we need to know about on the Floria Wars?
On the Floria Wars. Yeah. So the Floria Wars has a lot of characters. And then, so the main character of this Contact saga, which is what I call it because Contact was our first LP, is Adrian Park, who only has one song on the album. You can figure it out. It's called Adrian Gets Released. Because on album 3, Intake Occupation, Adrian was put into basically a psychiatric facility. They go through, rehabilitation. So that's them getting out. They're not really in the Flory Wars that much, but they have been the main character and continue to be the main character in the next album. So Adrian is the most important character, the character with pink hair. Obviously, it's like a fictionalized, much different version of myself. But yeah, they got pink hair. They got a beard. They're non-binary as well. So that's me but different. Then there's Rory. Rory is a super main character. Rory is like the leader of the Contra, the leader of the communist force. It gets really kind of soap opera-y, but him and Adrian used to date. That's what the EP Quests is about, is a prequel. It's them two on the album cover kissing.
I love that.
They
EP.
broke up later because Rory is like far left. Adrian is not far left, but they kind of were like, I cannot afford to live anymore. I must join the military, And then there's Arya, who is like second in command. She is in the communist, Contra force. There's Rosatel, who's like the leader. She's the leader of the Zevians. And, again, allied with the Contra. And then there's Gomek, who is, again, the second in command to her, second leader of the Zevians. There's a lot. There's Yusef, who is like the Che Guevara type of the Contra, doing a lot of stuff in the battlefield. As you can see, the song's Manufacturing Medicine, Into the Ghost is Captured, proves that he gets captured by the UGF. He's been in a lot of other EPs. And then there's just another character. Earlier albums, characters have died, so I was realizing one character named Eula, there's no spoilers because the album's out, that's Arya's younger sister, dies in A Call to Arms. So I was like, well, if I'm killing off characters, I have to reintroduce. So Oliver is like a fresh-faced, newer recruit in the Floria Wars who's singing probably the most catchy lyric on the album, which is, I see you there through the scope of my sniper's eye. I don't want to pull the trigger. But I might be the next to die. Oliver, newer kind of rookie. So there's the trepidation there for them.
Awesome.
I was going to ask about that line too, because that always stood out on Housed in the Arctic.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to look at the lyrics because I thought they'd be on streaming, and I guess I missed it wherever they were.
Oh yeah, we have them only on Bandcamp right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So there's so much thought put into this. Is it all backstory and subtext, or is like plot being told in the songs themselves, and how do you balance that?
Yeah, I'm just going to go really deep. So there is plot. It's a space opera. All of the lyrics are dialogue. If, I had an unlimited budget and unlimited time, there'd be people performing.
Yeah.
I can get more into that, but there's a long story to have them be acted out as puppets doing the dialogue. So there's no like X character walks in, but they'll say what's going on. The backstory, there's a lot that I kind of leave up to the imagination. If people ask me, like you're asking me now, I'll explain everything. It's not like I want to gatekeep. It's just, so like, can you rephrase what you mean?
As I was listening, I was like, I think I'm too dumb to get this. So I don't know if I'm like understanding correctly. Like how much is metaphorical? How much is like actually like telling the plot of the story in the songs, and how much of that is backstory that you're then referencing through like snapshots in the characters'
You are
lives?
not too dumb to get this. I am Max. I write all the lyrics. I sing. I write the synth. I play the drums. Dane York is the guitarist of Ultra Deluxe and the bassist of Ultra Deluxe. They are in the band and have still asked me questions about the story. Like it's all up here, and I'm pointing to my brain right now. Like I can explain it all, and I have, but yeah, it's not hidden. It's just like there's stuff I want to say. I was thinking about like writing a anthology, or like a ideally it would be like a comic book with everything, all the backstory, or like some character backgrounds that I think if there were like the audience for that, I would love to dedicate the time and link up with a visual artist. Aaron Fernandez has done the album art for our album, and they did the album art for Quest. They're one of the most amazing visual artists. I'd love to link up with an artist that I respect like them. But yeah, no, a lot of it is like just under the radar.
So I actually wanted to ask about that, because when I first discovered Ultra Deluxe, I think it was with Intake Occupation, I got a lot of Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah, definitely.
Not necessarily in the music, but a lot through this ongoing story that's occurring.
100%.
Yeah. And I know that the guitarist in Coheed and Cambria actually went and made graphic novels too, to kind of expand on it. So were they an influence?
Oh, definitely. I wear my influences on my sleeve. I mean, the Floria Wars is a direct reference to the Amory Wars, which is Claudio's comic book. Housed in the Arctic is a direct homage to A Favor House Atlantic, both lyrically and in song title. Our music does not really sound the same other than being under the umbrella of, like, anytime, like, they are a huge influence for me. I hope that people believe me when I say influence, that I'm not ripping them off, but I am taking huge inspiration from them. I mean, Ultra Deluxe wouldn't exist without them doing the Amory Wars. Nice. It's like, that is like the biggest inspiration conceptually to me is Coheed and Cambria.
Cool.
How do you feel about Danger Days?
Is that the My Chem
album? Yeah.
All right. I like My Chem. They're a really good band. I am old. Like, so like, like I'm a fake fan. So like, I love 3 Cheers. That came out when I was in 6th grade. And I remember explicitly having that on CD, playing it like in my like front yard and like practicing like kickflips or something. And then I just fucking fell down the rabbit hole of like the most ultra specific like punk screamo stuff. By the time that album came out, I was like out of it. So like I did not listen to it, but like I think that band is cool. I love high concept bands. Their music is good, but 3 Cheers, I know that album really well. Anything else, I'm like, I don't even know all their songs.
Okay, that's interesting, because I've always hit that wall with Coheed and Danger Days and even Black Parade a little bit, because I'm like, I know there's more to this, and I'm just like not getting it, because I either want to just focus on music or like have things explained too specifically to me. And maybe that's why I like Bruce Springsteen so much, because they're direct stories each time, you know?
I appreciate like all the different avenues. I grew up on classic rock thanks to my parents. And so I listened to Tommy by The Who, which that like a seminal concept album. I listened to The Wall, another one. My sister put me on American Idiot when I was younger, and she was in high school and rebellious and whatnot. So by the time My Chem came around with Black Parade, I was like, oh, finally, this is my shit. I've been trained for this.
Yeah.
But I actually never got into Coheed and Cambria until recently on not their past album, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But I think Vaxxus too.
Yeah. The other thing with that band is they definitely had, and I have a coworker of mine who has 2 Coheed tattoos, and like we talk about Coheed, and I think a lot of people, even big fans of the band, will agree they fell off sometime in the like 2010s, and have successfully with their last album come back. I kind of fell off with them when that, but I love the earlier records for sure.
They're incredible. So you gave a lot of great context, and you went through the characters and kind of the whole philosophy behind it. I was curious about how you managed to make your music and stories accessible to new audiences despite having another chapter in the story. Because I feel like that's really challenging. Like I think of all the comics and manga that I read, and it's really hard to jump on a story mid telling it. But you seem to do it really, really well.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Like, there is a lot of stuff that, like, if somebody wants to deep dive and, like, listen to all our albums, they'll pick up, like, on the little references, or if they want to, like, people can, like, DM the Ultra Deluxe Instagram and be like, what does this lyric mean? This makes no sense. Like, I think I wrote here, like, there are some words in the album that are just so jargony to the lore. Like, the Henne mines, the Contra, Zevium, like these are things that only exist in the Ultralux universe. Those aren't real things. There are a lot of the Henne mines and I'll be in a hospital are both references to Final Fantasy 12. I'm just having fun with it.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Yeah, like the UGF Talo is the reference to the Pokemon Talo because that flies. Like I'm just having fun with it. Like why not? But so for all those little jargon things, those are actually only like 10, like maybe 5% of the story. Most of it is really influenced by the political world we live in. And that is like, I think very relatable. So I've got this small lore thing with these references. Like I reference Pokemon, other video games that aren't coming to me right now. And that's just for me to know. Like nobody, that's not real. Like, or that's just for me. But like the actual political things I think are very relatable. You know, the sniper's eye thing. I mean, like we all know about the military. We all know about that. And then, you know, there's a lot of lyrics on the song Points of Peace. I'm talking about like, there's a lyric like, we don't know when the floods will come, when the sky turns black, when the smoke fills up our lungs. Like I wrote that about the Canadian wildfires that happened a couple years ago. Well, I'm performing the song a couple months ago and California is having wildfires. Right now, New Jersey is having wildfires. So it becomes relatable because of the capitalist hellscape we live in. Like if I wrote a lyric about a bad thing that happened because of capitalism 3 years ago, well, those things tend to repeat themselves. So that obviously the genocide, you know, in Palestine or the genocide in Congo or Sudan, if I write about those, well, those genocides are going on. There's other conflicts going on. They become more relatable.
I was wondering about the sniper's eye line because I was like, is this about like fear or xenophobia or like the cycle of violence? And the fact that it's like plot specific and general enough that you could apply the real world to it. I think that's a sign of like any really great sci-fi.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Like in this moment where we have to organize and we have to do real work and some of it's scary, especially as our government becomes more well, they're already fascist, they're America, but as they accelerate more, we are scared to do the work. You know, people, you know, US citizens are getting fucked with or deported even though they're citizens. And so it's like, I'm scared to do this, but I have to, or else they're going to get me. That's like, you know, that's how that line goes.
You brought up Manufacturing Medicine. That was my favorite song.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that is my favorite song too. It's also my funnest, like the funnest to play live. And our friend Jorge from the band Fear Not Ourselves Alone, who's the feature on that, they crushed it. So they did all the guitar and I think you might be bringing up some pedal companies, but they are really into like Chase Bliss.
Nice.
And so there's these crazy tones that they're getting on their guitar that I think they have the Mood MK2, which is on that. And it's so like crystallized and that really ethereal. That's why I reached out to him. Like, I want this song to be heavy, but ethereal. And that's your thing, Jorge. Yeah.
And that's not the only feature on the album either. There's, is it Fong Tran on the opener, Hopeswell? Who is that and what are they doing on the song?
Yeah, so that's my friend Fong. So they play Eurorack synthesizer. They're, you know, a synth composer, but they have some really deep tones with a pretty complex, you know, modular system that I just can't get the tones with the computer. I use Ableton. So, and I really wanted like this really swelling kind of vibrating entry to the album. So they're playing the first notes on the album is them. That the underlying bass tone is me, but they're playing like the swelling thing. And I was just like, they make classical music. They call themselves a classical composer, and they are, but their tool is not a violin, it's a modular synthesizer. So I think that is the most indicative of like what this band is trying to do. We use synth, but it's also classical. Like, so I was like, Fong, please start this album for me.
Is that how you work making all Ultra Deluxe songs? They come from you and you have the bones and then pass them off to your musicians?
100%. Yeah. So I compose in Ableton, and so on the record, I play all the drums, all the vocals that I sing. I write all the lyrics. I play more and more of the guitar with each album. So I played maybe 10% of the guitar. I wrote about 30% of the guitar on this album. And then for bass, I do more than that. I wrote 40% of the bass lines, like the House in the Arctic bass line I wrote, the Dreams of Him bass line from our last album I wrote. But I write all the synth and keys and everything melodica. And then the strings, so there's a lot of violin and horns. I come up with like kind of amateur MIDI notes of the things, and I give them to, the features we have, Twee and Ellie and Liz and Emily, and they play the parts based on my MIDI parts. But I am coming up with the structures all with synth, kind of a fully fledged song, but some of the parts are a little more bare bones.
That's so cool. Oh my God. Thank you. Because like that's kind of our approach too for the LVP, in that like it starts with me writing like a song that has like a structure and chords and a melody and lyrics. Sometimes the lyrics aren't even ready yet until I've brought it to the band and everyone else fills it out. And sometimes we have to like get it in the room together to get like the feeling out of me to know like what words are going to match the feeling I'm getting from the song. Now, does that kind of happen with you too, or is it always a very specific, like this is the next part of the story, or this is like the general feeling I want to go for?
So from a lyrical and story perspective, I know every concept. Well, not every, because I don't have like the whole thing planned, but I know the next album, which is the 5th album called Heads Will Roll. I already know the title. I've known the title of all these albums for like maybe 4 years. Like I haven't known what every single song is going to be about, but I've got like baseline story points, like this person's going to die or this person's going to do this. But I have that. Heads Will Roll is the 5th album. I'm writing it. I don't know when it'll be out. I made a joke tweet that's coming out like in 2029. That'd be awesome. Then I know I know the story. I know what characters are going to die or what they're going to do. But that's it. Then I will mess around on any instrument. Since I play multiple instruments to varying degrees of success, I'll like play a bass line and I'll be like, this sounds like that one thing where that person dies. Like this sounds like that one thing where that person shoots that person. And then it becomes that song based on like how it's feeling. Unfortunately, I'm not like competent enough at like music theory to know like the mood of this has to be in this key. I kind of write the riff and then I'm like, that goes with what I think that goes with.
Oh, okay.
And then the song will develop from there.
That's cool. It's like kind of like a proto soundtrack.
Yeah.
To the idea that you're trying to present.
I kind of think of it like Legos, where I have one riff and I have an idea and I have to like get them to fit into the right space. But I've got them all floating like somewhere in my brain, and I just like how to pick them out and put them together and make the little house.
Nice.
Do you have an idea how many chapters are going to be in the story?
Yeah. So this is like a deep lore thing. So like, again, I'm a comic book fan. And so if you're a comic book fan, you know that most story arcs are completed in 5 issues, making a trade paperback, right? Which is what you would buy at Barnes & Noble instead of the comic book store, where it's like 5 issues in a story arc. And so my first thing in 2018 or whenever I started is like, it's going to be 5 albums. I'm going to be done. I'm going to tell the story and that's it. And this is the story I want to tell. And the story was very simple. Evil billionaires take over a planet. They fight a lot. Billionaires lose. Planet wins. Like working class succeeds. We're done. And that will happen. Like the UGF will lose to Zevium in Heads Will Roll. Like that's no spoiler. That's what's going to happen. But like I was having so much fun. Like it's kind of I wrote all of Ultralux's lyrics are political. And in the first EP, Bummer, those are political or instrumental. And I kind of hit a wall. Like I can only write so many songs about the MTA or like police brutality or like when they all exist they're caused by capitalism. And so I was actually hitting a wall with writer's block lyrically. And I was like, what if I tell a story of what happens if we don't fix capitalism? So that's what the Contact Saga is. And so it could go on forever. And I am pretty confident that once I finish the 5, it's not the end of the saga. It's just the end of the arc. I have thoughts for a 6th album, but I'm also having a lot of fun doing these like prequels, sequels, offshoots. And it's just fun for me. I mean, I'll stop it when I don't feel like doing it, but definitely the 5th album, the arc will conclude and I will most certainly do more than that because it's just fun.
I'm so excited to like dive into the lyrics on Bandcamp now. I'm going to go through everything now and be like, now I got to know what happens. Yeah.
I'm glad you're having fun with the prequel and the side stuff because I really enjoyed that. It was guests.
Quest.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that 2-song because it felt. I'm a big fan of character stuff.
Yeah.
And while I love big concepts and I love big ideas, I love getting into the heads of characters because that sells me on being invested in the big concept you're trying to tell. I'm trying to discover and explore. So when I heard Quest, while Intake Occupation was my introduction to it, I was trying to figure out everything and piece it together. Then I heard Quest and I was like, "Ooh, I'm invested in these people."
Yeah.
Like I really want to know what happens.
Yeah, like I knew when I created Rory and Adrian, they were, used to date. They broke up for political reasons. And I was like, well, that's a way I can explore this. And the other thing is like, it's sci-fi. I have the universe there, but there's really only 2 planets. There's Earth and Xevium. And there's really only like 15 characters, even though there's like a universe. And so like, I cannot possibly, have enough time to create the whole universe. So I kind of micro focus on these. It's really the Contact saga is really only like 20 or 30 years, maybe even less. And the albums take place over maybe like a week, in the story. So I can micro focus and really develop these characters. Like Rory and Adrian get developed heavily, and I do, if I have time, to do a backstory. Arya and Eula are probably going to get another backstory to be like the companion to quests. And it's just stuff that it's just fun. I don't know. I just like to be a nerd.
Are you a Star Wars person?
So like the funny thing about I really like Star Wars, but I'm not as like into Star Wars or even as into Coheed and Cambria as like my appreciation for those pieces. Like I respect them so much. I love Coheed and Cambria. I love those like songs. But like Star Wars, I've seen every of the 9, and I've seen them multiple times, but I never really delved in. I just like appreciate. It's just like the bad guys lose, like the good guys win, and the good guys are fighting imperialism. Like that's fucking awesome. Also, they got fucking lightsabers. Like that's sick. Like what's not to like? I don't know. Star Wars is just movies. I feel like a lot of other nerdy stuff is like you have to read 100 pages. Like it's just movies. You watch shit get blown up and then you clap. Like it's fun.
Yeah, and that's all you need to like really need to enjoy it.
There was a lot of good like Legends stuff in Star Wars that's all like not canon now because of the Disney buyout, and now like there's too much stuff to watch. So like I used to be a massive Star Wars fan, and like I don't know, I really hated Rise of Skywalker, so now I'm like not into it as much. But I'm very excited now that Andor's back because that's like it's like the first really great Star Wars thing since the trilogy. I think the original trilogy.
That's awesome. Like, by my own admission, like I've seen all the main movies. I've seen Rogue One, which was awesome. Yeah. I watched the first season of The Mandalorian, and I think I watched Solo with my roommate once, and I wasn't paying attention, so we watched it again. And I like turned it off halfway through. Like I really like it, but I also like I got other shit going on. Like, I gotta go to work. Like, I can't. Yeah.
And so the reason I ask is because the Florida Wars feels like the Star Wars expanded universe to me. I think you said Legends because it doesn't count anymore. But before Disney didn't stop counting it, it was just not the stuff that's in the movies. And it felt so much deeper and like kind of better than the movies.
Like the books, the Knights of the Old Republic, all that.
Right. And
that stuff.
And I think the reason why I felt like the Florida Wars was more akin to the expanded universe than like all the movies and stuff is that, you have all like the fighting and the blowing shit up, but it feels much more meaningful than just the movies that like, the fights are cool. And there is a message, but the message can be kind of basic and then even throw away when we get to like later, like J.J. Abrams kind of stuff. It doesn't feel like that. It feels much more considered, which is what the expanded universe felt like.
Do you like Dune? I'm
like such a bad nerd. Like I have read the first 100 pages of Dune 1 and I got ADHD. I do love reading, but if I cannot like follow the conscious mind of the writer, I can't read it. I did like the Timothée Chalamet, the first part. I haven't seen it. I'm like, I'm nerding out about like Danish post-rock. Like I'm I'm like into the, I don't know. I like it. It's cool. I'm like, if you like Dune, hell yeah, Dune. Like, go for Dune. I don't know enough. Like I'm a fake sci-fi. Like
I don't know how you call yourself fake if you're making all this stuff. I only
read and listen to my own sci-fi.
No, I think you would like the movie. I was glad I read the book first before I saw both parts of the new movie, the Timothée Chalamet one, because like I was sitting there thinking like if I didn't read this, I would have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
But even when I was reading it, it took me a while to be like, what the hell is happening? But I read the first book during COVID lockdown. So I was able to sit and focus on it. And then I made it to like 2 books after and was like, I'm done. This is enough.
I was surprised with how dense the writing is for how popular Dune is. Cause like Lord of the Rings, I also really like J.R.R. Tolkien is like a really accessible and kind of funny writer.
I was surprised by that because I just read it recently.
The movies don't make it funny. Like he's funny. Like he's goofy. Like it's goofy stuff. But I like it. Fantasy sci-fi is all good.
You said you were a comic book person?
Yeah.
Are there any comic books that stand out to you or that helps inspire?
Oh, definitely. This one, again, I'll wear it on my sleeve. So Jeff Lemire, who wrote Sweet Tooth, wrote a series called Ascender, or Descender and Ascender, and that is a huge influence on the Contact Saga. So I do like Sweet Tooth, but I think his sci-fi series, Ascender, Descender is, I mean, the UGF is a direct ripoff of the UGC. Like mine is called the United Galactic Federation. Theirs is like the United Galactic Conference or something. That's just like, yeah, I'll own it. Like Jeff Lemire, I ripped you off. Like I did it because I respect you.
I was gonna say he'd probably love it too.
Yeah. Like so yeah, that is the biggest one for me. I also really like. We're in Williamsburg, so I gotta shout out Desert Island Comics.
Yeah.
That is the coolest brick and mortar bookstore I've ever been to. And you can get a lot of small press stuff there. And there's some people I really like. John F. Malta, not sci-fi. I think he lives in Brooklyn or something, but he's a comic book writer. It just does comic books, like about like wrestlers that get possessed and like beat each other up. So I like John F. Malta. And I also like another New York City comic artist named Ren McDonald, who did a sci-fi comic called Sparks. That's like, it's, a little anti-capitalist, a little dystopian, but it's also a little funny. So I'd say Jeff Lemire, John F. Malta, and Ren McDonald are my recs.
Nice. I have to check out the second too. I'm a big Jeff Lemire fan, but I haven't gotten to Descender and Ascender.
Oh yeah. It's like there's so many references. You'll it's great.
That's awesome. And I see even just beyond the sci-fi stuff in those books, he has very emotional storytelling.
Yes.
So I feel like that, like there's some impact there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I found out, somebody told me, I was in a comic book store in like 2009, and so I was like, you should read Sweet Tooth. This was way before it was, a Netflix show, and I was like, this is some crazy fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's famous. Jeff Lemire is an incredible writer, and I'm glad that, the world has now seen it because he made some weird fucking shit.
Yeah.
So I'm good, hell yeah, like keep doing you, Jeff Lemire.
So you made a quick reference to a Danish post-rock.
Oh, yeah.
So should we get into your filler?
Yeah, Tripper.
We're like an hour.
Tripper by Afterclay.
Yeah, so tell us about what you've brought for us to check out today.
So I brought a really, it's not that weird of an album, but it's just something that's not talked about that much. It's the band is called Efterklang, Efterklang. The album is called Tripper, like somebody that trips over. This album came out in 2004. The easiest way I could describe it is post-rock. It sounds a lot like bands that are like Sigur Rós, Explosions in the Sky. And so my experience with this album is very, again, nerdy. So I'm a nerd now, but I was even nerdier and with less friends in high school. So I would often just like go on, I think it was like, it's easy to find new music now, but the ways to find new music were not harder. They were just different. You kind of like had to like dig through the internet.
Yeah.
And you just go through the sub, whatever. I don't even think I was on Reddit, but I was just like related artist of a band I liked. And I found Efterklang and I heard Tripper and I was like, this is fucking, I've never heard anything like it. To put it into perspective, Tripper is a post-rock album. It's a very moody, like ethereal kind of post-rock album, but unlike Explosions in the Sky, which is like very focused on guitar, has about 50% of it is like glitchy electronics, and the other 50% is stringed instruments, violin, cello. They're a post-rock band, but they're like a classical band. And that was the first time I had heard a mix like that. I was listening to a lot of stuff, and again, I grew up like not really listening to post-rock. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm an emo kid and a ska kid, which kind of counteract themselves. But I grew up like listening to albums that are like, you're right there. Like there's emotion. Ska is the happy, emo is the sad. But like the singer, I went to a lot of shows, where the singer's just like screaming at you very viscerally, the lyrics that you're hearing and you're resonating with it. And like Tripper is the opposite of that. You're like, you don't really hear much of you hear but it's all a mood that's being like kind of seeps into your brain, and it kind of like rewired how I thought about music, because I hadn't heard an album like that. Just like you put that album on, it does not matter. There's a fog that descends over you.
Yes.
You're in a fog. Like if I listen to it, this is a beautiful day. I was just in McCarran Park. If I put that album on, it would feel like a cloud in a good way. It's like I'm getting rained on, but it's good. It's comforting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was listening to it last night in I think this was maybe my third or fourth listen through to really get into it. And I felt like I entered a trance. And I think it was by song 4 or 5 where I was unable to maintain a heightened focus, not because I didn't want to, but just because I was entering this mood and this aura where I was like, okay, let it wash over me and let me stop being so concerned with what they're saying, because I was watching the lyrics for a bit and I was like, these are really abstract. Yeah. I don't even really care what they're saying. I just want to listen, which ended up making me feel more present for it. You know?
Yeah. I totally agree. Even though this album has been with me for 15 years, I think I discovered it when I'm 16, I'm 31 now. I've had this album for half my life. There are only certain times where I can listen to this album, but they are amazing. And the times I put on are probably not going to be a surprise. If you're on a flight by yourself, flying, especially a nighttime flight, incredible album. I'm driving at night, if I'm with other people, I usually love driving at night and let the rest of the band sleep, and I just put on the album, everybody sleep, and I'm driving at night, through dark back roads. That's the album. Maybe if you're on the bus or NJ Transit, but it's a cold winter and you see the ice on the glass, that's when you listen to this album. And if you do want to listen to this album, do it at one of those times. I mean, you can do it whenever, but that's how I think it's supposed to be experienced. Again, they're from Scandinavia, so they live in a cold. I don't know if they're from Copenhagen or whatever. I'm sure that's a big city, but it definitely feels icy. And again, the Flory Wars is an icy setting. The reason I picked this album is because it is a huge influence on my album in many ways.
Yeah, I was just in Maine during spring break, and I got to wake up to a snowstorm. And so when that happened, having listened to After Clang maybe a week or two ago, I was like, oh, this feels like wintry music, so let me put it on. And just the snow fell and seeped up. But the whole day ended up being every season. So it went from winter, and then it started to thaw, and it got hotter. And the album being the length, the 50-ish minutes that it is, I got to have the winter of the album, and by the end, thaw out with it.
That's awesome.
In real time.
Cool.
It was incredible.
I had noticed, because you said the thing about putting you in the mood and whatnot, I had noticed Doppelganger. I had said, this puts me in a mood I've never felt before. And I love when music can do that, because I can't describe that feeling, but I'm just listening to it and I'm thinking this is touching something in my heart, and I don't know how I feel. And that's just so amazing that you can still feel that even later.
Yeah. I just I don't know. I mean, music has existed for a long time. Synthesizers and violins have existed for a long time. And I don't want to give After Clang an accolade that they didn't earn, but I will say it's the first album I ever heard that mixed that stuff like that. There's another band that's a huge influence for Ultravox called The Faint, which has cello and synth tones on it, but they're a heavier dance punk band. The way that they've created their tones and sound is so unique that I had never heard anything like it. Obviously, they were probably influenced by somebody that they say they sound like, but it's just the album is so unique so that when you hear the album, it puts you to a place that your mind hasn't been before. I don't know, when you're in a new country or new city, you're absorbing things that you haven't seen before.
I'm not usually familiar with electronic music, so my reference point for something like this was Kid A.
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of noticing a through line there where one of these songs had, Swarming had these light tapping sounds. It sounded like vinyl scratches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then it was set to a beat.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the way that would build and get louder and stuff, I was like, oh, cool. I can see that playfulness and inventive nature of building out a song in non-traditional ways. And I noticed on Monopolist that that's grandiosity.
One of my favorite songs in the album.
So
yeah.
I thought so because I said this sounds
awesome.
like an influence on Ultra Deluxe.
Yeah. And the reason I picked this album is if you listen to the Flory Wars and then you listen to Tripper by After Clang, if you are doing that, if you somehow listen to this podcast and want to do that, listen to Tripper first. That's just how I think it should go. And then listen to the Flory Wars. You're going to be your band does not sound like After Clang. Yes, we're electronic. Yes, we have strings, but we're a screamo band, and they're a really ethereal, like classical post-rock band. But I was listening to this album, and like you said, it puts you in a trance, it puts you in this mood. And I was like, I love this album. I think it's one of the greatest albums ever made. But there are things about it that, like, I would not have made this album. If I heard it, there are things like, I'm listening to this band, I'm like, you went there. I would have gone there. Like when you're playing chess, like, oh, you did that move. Well, I would have done that move. And I heard that at 16. I love it. It's a perfect album. Like, it's incredible. But I was listening to it, I'm like, I would have done this note, or I would have done this. And that's like why I made the Flory Wars. It's like, so one thing this band does is they never get heavy. They are so moody and so like control you. And then like, it's like there's this glass ceiling, like in fucking Willy Wonka, and the band just is floating right above it. I'm like, break the ceiling, like fucking scream. Like we're building, like you said, they're building this rhythmic thing, and they just chill out. And I think that's on purpose, but I was like, what if After Clang was not fucking chill at all and was like screaming? And that's why I made the Flory Wars. Like, so yeah, that's another thing. Like Jeff Lemire, like Coheed, After Clang is a band that I wear on my sleeve. Is I'm taking huge inspiration. I could be ripping them off, you know, like, but I took this album and I made it. Like if I made that album, I would have made the lyrics more clear, have things that you know what I'm saying, you know, scream, like every build up hits a really hard crescendo or breakdown. Cause like, again, this was like, I come from like an emo ska background where things are in your face. It's like, and then I hear this album when I'm 16, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and I'm like, so I kind of like combine those two worlds, and that's why I like made the Flory Wars. Cause it's like, if I made Tripper by After Clang, it would be the Flory Wars.
That's awesome. I'm hearing what you're saying about the album kind of being in this, like you said, glass ceiling. I even imagining like a box.
Yeah.
To it at this point. And previously, we're doing a Bruce Springsteen series.
Nice.
Because Steve is trying to convince me that I should like him.
Just like he tried to do with me with Blink-182.
Yes, that was kind of like the deal.
This is so real. I feel like these are both hot takes that are also, well, they're both very popular, but I understand they're like truthers for Blink and Springsteen.
Right.
I love it. I support it.
Right. And on our previous episode, or maybe it's one that we haven't released yet, we both got tired of these songs on the album because they're all mid-tempo. And we were like, we just want him to do something else, like go a little bit faster, or get a little bit louder, or scream or something. And so to bring it to After Clang and to bring it to Tripper, it all kind of feels the same, but it never...
But on purpose.
Yeah.
Not like they ran out of ideas.
Yes, it felt like they went in there and they were saying, we are going to stick to this area. This is our sandbox.
Yeah.
And if we venture out of it, then we're breaking the rules of Tripper. And this is no longer a Tripper song. And so you saying that if you made Tripper, that would be the Flory Wars, I hear that like kind of immediately. Yeah. Because I can hear the sandbox of Flory Wars. And I can imagine if you zigged where Ultra Deluxe usually zags, that's no longer Flory Wars. That might be something else. That might be a different Ultra Deluxe release, but it's not that album.
Yeah, like I just like, I hear the sounds in my head, just like After Clang heard those sounds, and they made those sounds with their instruments in their minds. You know, it's like, that's what they were going to make. And I'm going to make what I want to make. Cause like I'm hearing it, or I'm hearing these ideas. And like, that's what's cool about being influenced by something is like, Jeff Lemire, I like what you did here. I'm going to take that and I don't know. It's 2025. There are original ideas, and there are a lot of original ideas, but like every form of art is, unless you're like, I mean, there are some really cutting edge people that are doing shit that nobody's ever done, but like, I don't know. I like what they did. That's them. I'm doing me. And it's like, this is who, it's just like, you got to be true to yourself. Kind of tying it back to the gender thing.
Yeah.
Like just be like, I don't know. I've felt the most fun with this band, and also in my life with my current gender, by just like doing the most extreme version or the most true version of it. And it's like, I don't know, like I've been doing Ultralux for 10 years, and you know, I didn't care how many people come to the shows. Obviously more people are coming to the shows now than they were, 8 years ago, but like, I'm just having fun with it. And it's like, the more extreme or the more of it that I do, like the better it gets, and like the more fulfilling, I guess, the project is. Yeah.
Which kind of, I think, speaks to everything that's going on culturally with social media, with, I hate to say the words content creation, but it's about being authentic, which I think for a while there, people lost their way and were making what people wanted to watch, wanted to listen to, wanted to engage with. And now there's this reverse where people are owning it, owning who they are and what they make. And that authenticity, even if it's the weirdest thing that you might not typically be into, you're attracted to the authenticity. You're not necessarily attracted to what might be a genre you don't typically listen to or watch.
Yeah. So you're a sci-fi gamer and you like Square Enix games. Do you play Nier?
No, I know all about it and I know it's awesome. So I know about it. It looks sick. I'm like more of I love Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm really into Hades. Obviously, Ni no Kuni. I don't know if you know that.
I've been dying to play those.
Yeah, it's the Studio Ghibli Level 5 collab.
Yeah. Yep.
Ni no Kuni 1 is incredible, 10 out of 10. Ni no Kuni 2, I'm currently playing. It's fun. It's awesome. If Ni no Kuni 2 came out and there was no 1, people would give that a 10 out of 10. But Ni no Kuni 1 is one of the most amazing games I've ever played.
I bring up Nier because when I heard swarming, it made me think of the music in Nier.
That's awesome.
Have you heard?
No, now I have to.
You need to.
Somebody else recommended Nier for like a different reason, just because of, I guess it's political, right? Kind of. Yeah.
You know, the first one is more like dark fantasy thing, and then the second one gets like 10,000 years in the future from that and becomes a sci-fi fantasy.
That's awesome.
But the music is incredible because it's all like orchestral and sung in this made-up language that they said combines German, Hungarian, Welsh, Japanese, French, Latin, and gibberish.
Whoa.
And something about the way they were singing on this song reminded me of that. And I've like, every time I hear something that reminds me of Nier music, that's exactly where my mind goes. So I could definitely recommend that.
I like how they threw in and gibberish. Like, let's combine all these and then something that's not real.
Yeah, just enough to make it sound like this could be a language, but it doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
It's very Sigur Rós.
Yeah. Yonsei like made up their own language for that album or whatever. Yeah. Again, that's another band. I think I was like, Sigur Rós is pretty cool. Let's see the recommended artists. Afterclang. What does that even mean? Like, boom, there we go. Locked in.
Did listening to Afterclang lead to any other artists from there?
Oh, definitely. So Afterclang is cool, and another band that is like Afterclang, but if you take out the cold, depressing, and kind of, they're still like glitchy and stuff, but like a little happier, is a band called Moom from Iceland. It's M-U with an apostrophe over it, M. So they're like a happier Afterclang. Moom was a big band that I thought was, I just didn't resonate with them as much, but I love it. Like, they're one of my favorite bands. And then there's some other bands that are a bit heavier and a bit less trance-like. Maybe She Will. That's a post-rock band that, again, blends the glitch stuff. 65 Days of Static. They've been very active for a long time. Another band that is like kind of more math rock, experimental, but Three Trapped Tigers. They're a math rock band from England, and they're like really glitchy but heavy, mathy, kind of spastic. And so those are. So I'd say my Moom, Three Trapped Tigers. Those are the two to go for.
Okay.
Of those.
Is there anything you're curious about our takeaways as like newcomers to it?
I don't know. Where do you see it connecting to the Florio Wars? Besides, like, what is, like, is it so obvious? Like, is it very?
No.
Because I don't know. Because I know writing it, like, I was influenced by this, but like, or did it seem random to you?
No, to me, the adding of the screaming and some like post-hardcore kind of like heft to it is more up my alley. That's a little more the kind of thing I'm into, because I also had like kind of an emo metalcore like background, that kind of thing growing up. I noticed it the most on Monopolist because of that like beautiful classical instrumentation laid over these like industrial beats, like the mixing of those two things specifically. But then a song like Step Aside has bagpipes and accordions and trumpets, and I'm like, are these real? Like, for 2004, I don't think this would sound good enough to be fake, like synthesized. Like, those have to be real, right?
Yeah, that's like a thing that I kind of, for Ultralux, kind of throw everything into a blender. I don't know, like, fuck it. Like, why not? It's fun. I'm a teacher. We've all discussed, we've all have day jobs. Like, there's harmonica on earlier Ultralux albums. There's melodica on this album. Like, I'm trying to think of like I would love nothing more than on a future Ultralux album. I'm not making any promises, but like to have record scratches or like, like, just like, why not? Because it's music. Like, it's like you're fucking making weird sounds and seeing if people like them. So, I mean, that band did it in a very like artistic, kind of classical, like kind of thought out way. And I'm just like, what if I freak the fuck out and like do that, but like I'm a fucking weirdo. And so, I like, it works. It works on, Tripper. Like, and that was cool of them to do that. And so why not just fucking try something weird? All I'm saying is if you're in a band and you're listening to this, you should have like a theremin or a bassoon or whatever. Just fucking do it, because that would probably be fun.
We put a sax solo on our next single, and it was like the best choice we ever made.
That's fucking awesome.
And like our friends in Two Man Giant Squid now just do the theremin on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mitchell just
That
like
band
do
is
it
sick.
for a while. Aren't they great?
Yeah, they're really good.
I just saw them and Strange Neighbors because they're both on Mid 400 now, and they did a showcase together, and that was crazy because you brought up Super Destroyer and Ultralux being like kind of of the same cloth and getting on the same label. Like Mid 400 is interesting because like Two Man and Strange Neighbors are both great at what they do, but are totally different, but they both fit on that label.
Nice.
Yeah. Should we move on to recommendations?
Totally.
So Max being guest of honor, what should we get into?
All right. So I think a lot of people listening to this will know this band if you come from the DIY emo scene, but I have to shout out, New York City band and some of my best friends. So I'm going to have to shout out Career Day, their 2024 EP.
Yep.
I'll Always Be This. I love that band. I love them as people. The bassist, Robbie, is my roommate. And also
cool.
Robbie ordained me and my wife's wedding.
That's awesome.
We're like, I'm married to my wife, and Robbie's a roommate because, New York City rent's expensive. Yeah. It's like, who better to live with you than, one of your best friends? So besides the fact they're great people, their music is so different from mine. Yeah, we're both emo, but they're like a pop punk emo band. I'm like a screamo experimental band, but lyrically we are so similar. Mm-hmm. And when I brought up the reference to Points of Peace, where I was referencing the Canadian wildfires and how singing it, and I did a West Coast tour and I'm singing it in California a couple months. So I'm like, this is so relevant, even though this is not about this. Career Day has the last song on their EP that came out last year. The EP is called I'll Always Be This, and the song is called One Bad Day. So One Bad Day, the vocalist Desmond, wrote lyrics about Jordan Neely, the man who was murdered on the subway by Daniel Penny, and how like under capitalism, we are like, one step, I don't want to say closer to the grave, but closer to financial ruin or something than being closer to a billionaire. And so Desmond performs this song all the time. And they play it every time they perform. And I think it's one of their best songs written. But the lyrics, like One Bad Day is All It Takes, they're so relevant because even though Jordan Neely, unfortunately, was murdered a couple years ago, unfortunately, there is always another murder or police brutality or whatever in the lyric, because we're writing about this moment that we live in under capitalism and under late stage capitalism. Like, if you are authentic to what's going on in the world, it will be relevant and it will matter in 5 years, in 10 years, in 2 months, in 2 weeks. I wrote a song by Ultralux called The Cypress Stomp. It's one of the few songs that's not part of the saga, and it's about school shootings because I'm a teacher, and that was about the Parkland shooting in Florida, and that's like 7 years ago. But when I used to perform it, it became too relevant.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate Career Day for making amazing, catchy music, but also like having these lyrics that are important and that get people to sing along. Like, I love that band, and when people see them, like, so many people are singing along, like half the crowd is singing along because the lyrics are so relevant and important. So yeah, Career Day, listen to the song One Bad Day.
Nice. That was a great EP. Also, Desmond is on my list of people to reach out to.
Oh, please do. Desmond's the best. Hi, Desmond. I hope you're listening.
I'll send it to him. Yeah. I'll DM him on Blue Sky. Steve, what's your recommendation for the week?
I've been playing Prey, the 2017 one.
That's the Alien game?
Yeah.
Nice.
So if I understand this correctly, Bethesda had an IP called Prey from a game like in 2006. And then they were talking about doing a sequel for a while. And then so much time passed that it never happened. And then when Arcane Studios made this game that was basically BioShock in space, Bethesda made them call it Prey, even though it has nothing to do with the original.
Oh, so you said BioShock in space. So I'm already. I was listening the whole time, but I'm like,
to play it.
Ultra deluxe listening.
No, it is amazing. Like, it's the same, like very much the same thing of like playing with concepts of memory and who you are like in the story and like who you should be listening to as you do these things.
Wow.
And also, like the what do they call them? BioShock, the like.
Splicers or
no, the things you take to give you powers.
Oh yeah,
I forget, but in in Prey, it's called neuromods, and you need enough of them to get new powers and new like upgrades and stuff. And it's like a whole skill tree thing. And it's just so good. And it's so much of that like seek and find thing of like, oh, I got to go find this key card to go to this room to do this side quest, which might sequence break a little bit or give me something like to make me a little stronger going into the story. It's so good. And of course, I had been agonizing about what game to play next because I keep starting Metal Gear Solid games and hating the controls. So I started MGS2, was like, this looks amazing. I can't wait to get into this, but I can't play it. So I'm going to watch this story too. And so I started Prey and I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to stick with this. The next day, Oblivion Remastered Shadow dropped. Yep. And I'm like, I don't have time. Like, what? That's 100-hour game. It looks incredible. It looks better than all the Skyrim remasters they've done. And now Clair Obscur it came out today, so I got to play that. And then I just pre-ordered a Switch 2, so I'm waiting for that to come.
Speaking of the controls for Metal Gear Solid, props to Hideo Kojima for being like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Back is yes. Because I played on PS2 and the circle, I was like 12 and I was like stuck on the home screen for like 5 minutes. Like, what the fuck is going? Like, that's crazy. And that I think
the original Final Fantasy VII did that, and I had to go in and change the controls because I wasn't used to it.
That's punk. That's like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
That pissed me off so much. I'm like getting angry remembering the circle. I played Prey on my Mac Mini when it first came out.
Wow.
And this is probably my awakening to PC gaming, which is wild because Macs are not gaming machines whatsoever. But it put me down this whole path of building my own PC as I got older. And now I'm like a Steam Deck boy.
Yeah.
Like I won't get off the couch. And like, I know you could hook it up to the TV, but like, no. I can go play it on my bed. I can go play it in my rolly chair. Like, it's so comfy. And it emulates all these games too.
You go outside while playing video games, and then you're like,
it's the best of both
worlds.
Yeah.
Okay. My filler, because you mentioned earlier, Max, about guitar pedals.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny that it worked out. I'm really into this podcast called Object Worship, which is from Old Blood Noise Endeavors, the pedal company. They used to do this show on YouTube. I don't know how long ago it was. My buddy in college put me on it, called Coffee and Riffs. And they talk like this into the microphone, and you'd hear like the slurp of the coffee. And they're just sitting there and they're talking about reverb and they're talking about delay and modulation and all this crap. And I didn't know all that stuff then when it came out on YouTube, but I was enjoying listening to them doing that. This is kind of like the updated version of it for the 2020s, where they invite people they know on. Oftentimes it's musicians, but it's also like people in the gear world. And they just say, what is the object you worship? And so someone brought in like the guest on the most recent episode that I really got into. He'd been on previously, and he brought in like the DL4. And he's like, I like the original DL4. I don't like the new one because it does stuff that I don't really need to. And the old one has quirks that I've grown to love.
The Terramelos machine.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so they brought him on again. And this time he was like, I don't have an object. I have a book. And I was like, this is straight up just an episode of filler. But these are guys talking about how a skateboarding book brought philosophy, or like that philosophy of skateboarding, like very Zen philosophy versus what we were talking about before about competitive sports, to him as a musician. And so they go into talking about his most recent album. This guy, Andy Pitcher, put an album called Dots. And it's just him doing like jazz music, how that connects to skateboarding, connecting back to pedals and gear and music and just everything. And I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm into. It's very, very wholesome, very personable, but also weird. Because you would not make any of those connections. Like, I don't know how you can connect skateboarding to a DL4, but I kind of just did.
It's like the Always Sunny Charlie meme with the child.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's like. Well, that was awesome. Max, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you all so much.
Appreciate it.
Anything else you want to plug besides your brand new album, The Floria Wars by Ultra Deluxe, that you can stream or download or buy anywhere?
Vote for Zoran Mamdani for mayor.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Ultra Deluxe, we endorsed, I don't think he wants our endorsement, but we endorsed him on Instagram. I'll endorse him here. Vote for Zoran Mamdani. Do Food Not Bombs, and fucking just, Thank y'all for being here.
You
are cool.
Can we put together an unofficial like Zoran
like
fundraiser show?
I think about that all the time. Honestly, he seems pretty chill. Like, I think he would be into it. He'd be like, these kids are screaming, but I feel like he's tapped in. He probably knows who like one of these goofy bands we're in is. Yeah, why not? Yeah, go Zoran.
And if we need a sponsor, maybe Spindrift will finally get off their asses and do something about it, and maybe throw some money into playing that show or putting that show on.
Spindrift should definitely sponsor. I think there's an untapped market of Zoran Mamdani Spindrift. That like the Venn diagram of Spindrift fans and Zoran Mamdani like rank one choice voters is just a circle basically.
Man, if Spindrift came out as socialist, I think I'd stop shitting on them immediately.
Yeah, even as a joke.
Even as a joke,
which it totally isn't. It's not a joke at all. Give me money.
There's no ethical consumption under capitalism unless you're consuming massive amounts of Spindrift.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and exploration of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz and follow Filler on Blue Sky. See you next time.